In today's video, I'm going to be giving you 3 steps to start your real estate investing journey. If it's been something that you've been thinking about, this video hopefully will help you get started out and on your way with your investment journey. So when I first got started, I look back, I was thinking about this the other day, this video, putting this together, and I thought back about how I got started, what it was that actually kind of propelled me to do it and get going. And I had wanted to dabble in real estate investing for a long time, but there was a lot of things that kept me from doing it. There was fear of the unknown. There was this idea that I would just totally, lose all of my money and it'd be a disaster, and I'd live in a van down by the river, kind of the old joke with Chris Farley. But at the end of the day, the first thing that you really have to do is get educated. And there's a few reasons why, aside from the obvious, you need to know what you're doing. But one of the things is just when you get educated, it starts to kind of put some of those fears aside, because you start to understand, okay, here are all the good things that can happen and here are all the bad things that can happen. And you start to understand a little bit of, okay, here's the things that I need to watch out for, here's the things that I need to try to avoid, and that sort of thing. And so for me, one of the first things that I ever did, they had these seminars that would travel around, and I can't even remember which one it was, but there was a seminar that came to Columbia here in South Carolina, and it was an evening deal, and I went to it, and I sat through it, and I just sort of observed and watched what was going on and listened and everything. And I thought, if these guys can do it, I can do it too. Like, there's no reason. I mean, that's kind of my mentality a lot of times. If somebody else can do something, I'm like, well, if they can do it, I can do it. And sometimes maybe that's naive, but that's just kind of the way I think. I'm like, if there's a way, if there's a will, there's a way, that sort of thing. So I continued after that to really, really dig into getting educated. And I read a lot of books. I actually watched a lot of videos online, listened to podcasts when podcasts were really an early thing. And it helped me to get confident. It helped me to get educated so that I kind of knew what I needed to do and how I would be successful doing that. And that's something that you can do. Now, the trap is there's a lot of people who go all in on the education phase of this thing, and they don't take action. They just get really, really keyed into learning as much as they can, and they all of a sudden they get this paralysis by analysis because they're learning so much, they feel overwhelmed, and they never take action. And so don't fall into that camp of just education without action. But if speaking of education, right now I have a free course. This course is legit. I'm about to start charging for it. I've been offering it for free for a while. I'm about to start charging. It's going to be somewhere probably about $299 for the course. If you want this course for free and you don't want to pay the $299, I suggest checking it out. I'm going to put the link in the description below. This will give you it's 2.5 hours long. It'll give you a really solid foundation if you're interested in learning how to invest in real estate. I cover a lot of things. Some of it is more of a high level, but I definitely cover things that where if you're interested in learning, you can take advantage. And again, for a limited time, I've had it free now for a couple months, but I'm about to start charging. So get it before I put a price tag on it. It'll probably be like $299. But anyway, that's something that you need to dig into, learn, but understand that is just a phase. That's just a small season of what you have to do. You can't just live in the education phase. The second thing is you need to do, or the second step into starting your real estate investing journey, is you need to pick a strategy that you are going to tackle. You don't want to basically just, decide you're going to do everything, because if you try to do everything, you ultimately won't do anything. So you got to figure out what you're going to do. Are you somebody that's really, really, really busy? You've got a job, you don't have a lot of time, you don't have a lot of money. Maybe you decide you're going to try to wholesale a little bit. Or if you're somebody that maybe you have, time and you've got a little bit of money that you can use, maybe you decide you're going to flip houses. Or maybe you're a busy professional, W-2, high W-2 earner, and maybe you're just going to buy straight rentals. You're just going to accumulate rental properties and build wealth over the long game. I talk a lot on this channel about the BRRRR strategy. I'll put in the notes a free guide to kind of help you with that, understanding how to execute the BRRRR. And I also have a video series on this channel about how to execute the BRRRR. But whenever I got started, my idea, what I really wanted to do, interesting enough, I wasn't really looking to wholesale or anything else. When I got started, what I really wanted to do was flip properties. I just felt like that was a great opportunity. I have an insurance business agency I still own to this day, and I had some time flexibility, and I had some money, and I was like, this is what I want to do. And so when I first got started, I've talked about it on the channel before, I ended up, my first flip was a disaster. It was a total disaster. Everything went wrong. I mean, from the beginning of it, when I started the project, and I say everything went wrong other than the acquisition. The acquisition went great. I used creative financing, got the guy to do seller financing with very little down, so that part went great. But the renovation was terrible. I went way over budget. I went way over time. I had no idea what I was doing. And there was truly a lot of sleepless nights. I really, really thought at times, I'm never going to get through this. It was just so many things that were going wrong. And from that, I learned an incredible amount from that one project. And I will say even that was part of my education was that first project. And instead of being able to flip the property, what ended up happening was I couldn't flip it because I had very little margin left on a flip. It just wasn't going to be something that really would make me hardly any money. My projections were it was going to make a lot of money, and by the time the renovation was over, there just wasn't a lot of money there. And in fact, after paying closing costs and everything, it was going to be almost like losing money or like a break-even situation. And I thought, I've gone through all of this. I don't want to do that. And so from my education and learning, I said, hey, maybe I should just try to see if I can't refinance and keep the property, as a rental. And so I remember I'd built a relationship with a local lender, community bank. And I said, hey, if I decided to keep this as a rental, would you allow me to refinance out of the seller finance that I have with the seller and refinance into a loan with you? And he said, depends on how the deal looks. And we looked at it, and sure enough, I was able to refinance out of the property. I got all of my money back. So I was able to pay off the seller because I had an owner finance set up with him. I paid him off. I was able to get all of the money that I had put into the renovation, all of that money back, and I was able to refinance and actually cash flow with a tenant that I placed in that property. I still own that property to this day. And so when you really pin down and you're going to have a strategy that you go after, understand that you may have to pivot. But what I didn't do was say, hey, I'm going to flip, I'm going to wholesale, I'm going to have rentals, I'm going to do BRRRR strategy. I didn't go into it with 1,000 different things. It is a good idea to understand, particularly if you're flipping, to have multiple exit strategies. And that's something I teach on the channel and I teach to my students. But the point of it is I had a strategy, I had to pivot along the way, and ultimately learned a lot from it, and it was a blessing. So if you're somebody that's wanting to be an active investor, like I said, you can actually go in and wholesale, you can fix and flip, you can buy rentals, you can do the BRRRR strategy. What if you are someone who does not want to be an active investor? What if you're someone who wants to be a truly passive investor, which, by the way, rentals are not truly completely passive. We talk about them being passive a lot, but there is a lot of work that still goes into owning rentals. What if you wanted to be completely passive? Well, one of the things that you could do if you wanted to be involved with real estate is you could be a private money lender. We actually have private money lenders that work with us. We pay them a great rate of return, and it's great because they're able to make higher returns than they would get putting their money in a CD or a bank account. So they're getting, actually, we pay a double-digit return. But what happens is the real estate itself secures their investment. So they're kind of getting the best of both worlds. They're getting collateral and they're making a double-digit return, and it's a win-win for someone who has the money, but they just don't have the time. And we're always looking for private money investors to partner with. So if you're someone that wants to be passive and you just don't know who to talk to about placing your private money funds with, reach out. I'd love to have a conversation. Step 3 to starting your real estate investing journey is one I talk about on this channel a lot. That's taking massive imperfect action. And so the story that I just laid out for you of my experience, I took massive imperfect action and I made a lot of mistakes along the way, but I took action. My second rental property that I ended up buying, the second property that I bought, at that point I said, hey, I'm going to do this same thing that I did on the first one. So I bought it, and I want to back up. Actually, the very first rental I had was a house that we used to live in. We moved and I kept it. So that was my first official rental property. But the first rental that I bought and then ended up fixing up and renting, I said, I'm going to do that same method that I did the first time, which is known as the BRRRR method, by the way. So I did that, went in there and did some fixed it up some, and I had a tenant, a prospective tenant, and she was a sweet lady, seemed pretty nice, and she was going through some hard times. She had multiple evictions, money was tight, all these different things, and she really pulled at my heartstring to help her out. And so what did I do? Because again, I like to think I'm a pretty good person. So you know what, this lady needs some help. She needs a hand up. What did I do? I leased her the property, and what do you think happened? Of course, she ends up, it's always not paying. It's a struggle to get her to pay the rent. She's always late. I'm having to follow up all the time. At this point, I didn't have systems and processes in place either. And eventually, she just stops paying the rent. Not only did she stop paying, she just stopped communicating and everything. So I had to go through my first eviction. And it was something that was pretty nerve-wracking, to be honest, because I had no idea what I was doing. No clue. But I managed to get through it, and I learned all about the eviction process and how that stuff works. And sure, I'd read about it, and I'd tried to learn a little bit about it, but until you actually go through one, you really don't get a good grasp of what's going on and how things play out. And in fact, thankfully, I've only had a handful over the years, but there's been others that have been more complicated and more things have occurred where I actually had to go to court. And the point of it is, it ended up not being as scary as I thought it was. I learned a lot from it. One of the things I definitely learned is to screen tenants properly and don't get caught up with emotions trying to think that, oh, this person is going to change or whatever. This lady had multiple evictions at that point, and I should have known better. But I took massive imperfect action, and I went ahead and I learned as I was evolving. I want you to think, for example, and this is kind of a weird thing, but just think about this, and hopefully you can relate to it. Think about where you went to high school, or you can say where you went to college. Either one, where you went to high school or where you went to college. And I want you to think about one of your best, if not best friend that you met there, or your significant other. And you may not, if it's a friend thing, you may not even talk to them anymore or whatever. But for many of us, whether it's high school or college, we meet really, really good friends, and we have lifelong relationships, hopefully, with some of them. Think about, had you not gone to that school, had you gone somewhere else, particularly if you met your significant other, in college or something like that, or even high school, what would your life look like right now had that not happened? Literally, where would you be in life? You would possibly, if you met your significant other there, you might be single, or you may be married to somebody else and it's a total disaster. All right. Or if you never met that friend, you didn't have that relationship, your life could be on a totally different trajectory than it is now. And I say that because real estate investing is the same thing. We have so often where people want to get started, but they're just scared to take the first steps. And I challenge you to think about it this way. How amazing could your life be in 5 years from now if you started real estate investing this year? If you stopped putting it off and you decided, this is something that I really want to do, I'm going to get educated, number one. I'm going to pick a strategy that I'm going to use from getting educated, and I'm going to take massive imperfect action. If you did those three things, what could your life look like 5 years from now? If you're wanting to leave your job, could you potentially leave your job and be full-time as a real estate investor? If you're wanting to be able to travel with your family and have some extra money so that you can do that, would you be able to do that 5 years from now? What would that look like? If you're looking to build wealth and have time freedom, 5 years from now as you're investing in real estate, what could your life look like? Now think about, what if you don't do it? What if you continue to just put it off and put it off and put it off? Chances are 5 years from now, you're going to kind of be in the same place you are right now. And so I hope that you will do the things that you need to do. If real estate investing is something you truly want to do, I hope you'll take action. It's not for everybody. Entrepreneurship is not for everybody. In fact, I would argue entrepreneurship, business owner, being a business owner, investing is actually probably not for most people. But if you're somebody that's been thinking about it a long time and you're somebody that has that burning desire deep down inside to do it, then I encourage you to take these 3 steps. Get educated, pick a strategy, and take massive imperfect action. As always, thanks for watching, and I look forward to seeing you on the next video.